How's everybody doing this evening? Fantastic. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jeffrey Wilson. I was the MC of the first Penthouse panel with Boss Root and Matt Hughes, and UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich, whom I co-host a podcast with. Pat and I co-host a podcast called The Conspiracy Farm. We get deep down the rabbit hole, ladies and gentlemen. Just the other day, we had on former Russian Spetsnaz, Sonny Puzikas. Mind-blowing, quite frankly. So go check it out. You can find it anywhere, conspiracyfarm.com, etc. So let's get started, ladies and gentlemen. Let's welcome our three legends of the cage and the ring, etc. Man, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. Welcome, guys. We have a few questions here, and so we're going to start with all of you guys, actually. So first one here is from our good buddy who organized the organization here, Chris. What was your first fight in the cage ever, and who was that against, and what promotion? We'll start down there with Mr. Mezger.
UFC 4. I can probably speak. Everyone hear me all right?
Yes, Doc.
Thank you. I'll drop an octave or two for you. Anyways, UFC 4, and it was Jason Ferrum, who, I don't know if you ever follow that guy. He is a batshit crazy guy now. He literally... He somehow doesn't think he lost the fight, and you might own him on your conspiracy show, actually.
He offered to pay for a flight to come here tonight, just to let you know.
Did he?
Yeah, I told him.
And reboot.
Yeah.
Have a rebuttal. That's cool.
So that was my first one. It was UFC.
Wow, in a cage, right?
Yeah.
Cage.
It was
We did already in cage.
First fight.
Cage S.
yeah, it was first fight. It was first. Well, back then it wasn't. It wasn't MMA then. It was.
Were you in a cage?
NHB, but it was UFC.
Were you in a cage?
I was in a cage. I was first
You're in
cage.
a cage.
Yeah, mine was actually Patrick Smith. I believe his, what was his entrance was, I feel no pain. And then probably what, you hear him screaming, ah! I was like, well, I guess that isn't true. That was my first fight, and it was very satisfying.
First time I fought in a cage was I fought Kevin Jackson for the first UFC middleweight championship, and I armbarred him in
16 seconds.
It was actually 14. But it couldn't stop the video in time because everybody was so shocked at what was going on. So
What just happened?
Yeah, so that was the first time, and it was a really good experience. Like it was pretty amazing.
Very cool, very cool. Another one for all of you guys, and obviously you could go long-winded with this, but obviously if you can abbreviate, how have you guys seen the sport change from, obviously the early days, not being sanctioned in a lot of states, to where we are today? You got William Morris with a huge buyout, $4 billion, et cetera, where we're at today. Guy?
I mean, real simply, guys, it went from, as much as we called it a sport in the early days, it wasn't a sport, it was a spectacle. It wasn't really designed to last long. It was designed to be a Gracie promotional for what they did, the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. There was no, we were behind the eight ball as athletes in this thing because, we didn't have a forum in which you could have no rules and fight. Most of us grew up with the idea of being sportsmen, and so really what it was a spectacle. And then what happened, it became a sport. Love them or hate them. I mean, a lot of people criticize, but the reality is that Fertitas and Dana White saved MMA as we know it, really, and by adding the rules and making a sport, and it really changed the idea that we were able to. Me and Kim were actually talking about this earlier. Was the reason that fights ended so quickly and everything? There wasn't a platform in which you could train under because there were no rules and there was no weight. It was. I mean, how do you actually train for something like that? It's very difficult to, and so there wasn't a platform in which to do it. So everyone was kind of running around blind, trying to figure it out. And so when they added the concept of rules and stuff, and to be honest, it became a sport, and it became a platform in which our athletes could, build a training platform around. And that's really probably the biggest difference. Is like I said, it was a spectacle before, and it became a sport.
What was the question again?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, man.
how it's changed from
Thank you,
like,
sir.
you know, old school when it wasn't sanctioned to where we are today. It's a global thing.
Yeah, when we first did it, you know, I mean, it was really underground. It was more like a cult. You had certain people follow it, and the word traveled, you know, through phone calls and people. It wasn't a whole social internet thing going on. And then you just see all of a sudden it just took this massive form of media. All of a sudden it was on TV, and then when it hit TV, it went pay-per-view, and then when it pay-per-view, it went international. And then pretty soon you look up and you're like, wow, this thing is like international. It was huge. So it went from just like, you know, a couple tough guys and a couple beer brawlers getting into a ring and fighting to actually skilled fighters, guys that had a lot of technique. It went from, I remember watching the transition go, grapplers dominated the cage. Then all of a sudden, the strikers learned how to defend the takedown, and then they were dominating the cage. And then the grappler said, hey, I think I better learn how to strike because I can't take them down so as I can set up my shots. So they started getting better at striking, and then grapplers started taking over. And now we see what it is today, where it's actually not style against style, which it was in the beginning. Now it's called MMA, and everybody is a CrossFit trainer. Everybody does CrossFit stand-up and striking and ground technique, all of it together. Fitness, striking stand-up, and ground technique, they're all the same now. There's no individuals, karate, wrestle, judo, sambo. It's not broken apart anymore. We're all one. What was the
That was so
question
deep, man. That was so
That
deep.
last little bit, I almost got a kumbaya.
That was so heavy.
We're
I
all
don't
one.
even know where to go from there. Yeah,
Just say, get 'em.
Amazing.
It was cool for me because I was a young man during the whole experience, and I don't know anything from anything. I grew up, you know, surviving, so to see the fighting develop in front of me, and to see Ken and Guy, they all went in front of me, so I could watch them do their thing, and to see the sport develop, and to be a part of that. You know, the difference between then and now is we didn't know, so we were all just in it,
Right.
winging it, swinging it, you know, just going for it, and there was a different, I think, culture of appreciation and respect and discipline or non-discipline. But it was a different experience because no one knew. We just went for it, and sometimes you would get knocked the fuck out, and sometimes you would win, and sometimes it would be amazing, and sometimes it wouldn't. And then we would literally go back and be like, you know, write numbers on a board and like come up with solutions and go out and do it again, which when you think about it is completely insane. And the new generation doesn't have to do that. You know, it's a TV product, it's a vehicle to be famous, it's this great sport, but you know, in the era I did it, when I remember with these gentlemen, it was, you know, throw it on the wall, you may or may not win, and, you know, team rah-rah.
No, you better win.
Yeah, you gotta win, you gotta win, and team rah-rah, and like, you know, who knows what's gonna happen, and I think that passion has a little bit been lost in the new generation, but that's what television is, both a blessing and a curse.
In addition to the podcast I had with Pat, I have my own individual podcast, which I had Pat on as my first episode, and I've also had Stephen Wonderboy Thompson ask the same question I'll ask you guys. I kind of phrased it as the McGregor effect, being able to talk your dollars up to the point where now it's like everyone's trying to talk their dollars up, the rankings mean absolutely nothing. Has this undermined the rankings and the purity of kind of the sport, and is the UFC going a wrong direction in just, you know, now Biz being GSP, and just this super fights, if you will. Everybody's just going for the big fights. I'll start with Frank down here.
I just think it's a sign of the times. You know, when you don't invest in the talent, when you don't invest in the amateur league, when you don't invest in the culture, you know, then the next star is the next most important thing. And the problem with that is that there's no reliability to it. And then, you know, a star like that can hold up the sport. And I think it's amazing what he does, but, you know, when everybody benefits, then it's even more amazing. You know, I think that when the culture is there to develop these athletes, everybody has a platform. Anybody who goes out and fights in a cage with their fists and puts it all on the line is a freaking rock star, because it's ridiculous. And that is a true bearing of your soul. You know, I love where we're at in entertainment, that now these guys truly have this platform. But it's like, we need to get back to the basics of the sport, which is martial arts and taking care of these guys. And, you know, there should be a future for these people so that they want to perform, because this shit's really dangerous. And, you know, McGregor knows it because we've shown it. It's like, listen, get paid. Because, you know, I know guys that have never made this journey. You know, guys that didn't make it. Guys got really, really hurt. And it's like, we're the lucky ones. You know?
So you don't necessarily fault him for what he's doing, you know, Nick
Absolutely.
Diaz jumping to Mayweather.
No, let him make the money.
Right.
You know, but if the sport were, I was there testifying on behalf of MMA before MMA was legalized. Like, I was with the commission, speaking to them on their behalf. And the first thing I said was, first thing they said was, who's gonna, you know, invest in the amateurs? Who's gonna invest in the future of the sport so that this thing can roll out properly? And, you know, everyone looked at their books and their phones and looked at the wall, and all the promoters, you know, nobody stepped up. And, you know, the result is, you know, we grasp at any star. We grasp at anything, because, you know, there's not a culture of development, and there's not a culture of, listen, if you perform at your highest, we will care for you, and we will provide something for you, and we will create a vehicle for you. That doesn't exist. It's just, you know, take everything, you know, good luck, and, you know, it's not where I came from. I came from a culture of respect. You know, I came from a Japanese culture where after your performance, whatever you had left, they would then value that and give you that in the company. Like, they would somehow find a way to keep you involved, and you felt like your sacrifice was worth something. And I don't feel like that exists anymore. And I'm down with making money. I've made tons of money. But you can't teach the youth that it's all about fame and money and this when it's martial arts, because it just doesn't work that way, sadly.
Oh, man, where do I
Go out
start?
heavy on the martial arts.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that
Ken.
that was deep. Listen, I hope I answered the question correctly, if I understand it right. I think and I know when I was coming up, the main thing for me was to market myself, to get the most out of what I was going to do as a fighter. Yeah, you walk in the ring, you fight, you get your dollars, and you try to negotiate better deals as they come along. But at the same time, you have to figure out a way as a fighter, how do I separate myself from everybody else? How do I put myself above everybody else to be able to justify being able to negotiate a higher price for myself? And I learned very early on that fighting wasn't just about fighting. It was about entertainment. And that if you can entertain a crowd, you can entertain the fans, and you can keep them coming back, and you can fill seats in arenas, then you can command top dollar. You can go in and negotiate top dollar. So for me, when you watch McGregor, it's almost, I look at the mold about, you know, earlier guys who were trying to create opportunity for themselves by doing certain things, creating characters. I remember watching, and I wouldn't go that extreme, but I do remember watching Chemo come out with a cross, you know, and he automatically demanded attention, even though he lost. But people wanted to see him again. So for me, I'm okay with what McGregor's doing. Fact is, I think it's great for the sport. I think he's in a situation where he can't lose unless he gets knocked out in the first round or before the sixth round. I think he has an opportunity to make a name for himself bigger than he already has. I think he's got an opportunity to join the family of boxing and MMA together, because everybody's going to watch it. So I think it's a great marketing skill. I think it's a great way to market himself. I think it's a great way for him to be able to command top dollar. And I think all the fighters right now are looking at him as a role model of what to do with themselves to be able to get the money that they want.
Does that do anything to certain weight divisions if they're held hostage when they do that, when they just want to talk up? You know, Tyron Woodley's talking. You know what I mean? The other guys who are coming up, you know, kind of have to wait while these super fights happen. Not just the McGregor effect with what he's doing, but how that is affecting the division overall in the sport. Are you guys cool with that?
Well, but listen to this. You got to look at it like this, okay? First thing is, what's the main purpose of the game? It's marketing and popularity and money. So what McGregor's doing is actually showcasing boxing, along with Mayweather, and he's showcasing MMA worldwide. Right. So what he's doing is creating a platform on all the other fighters for the event of MMA to get popular and to draw more money so they're able to make more money. So it can't hurt them.
Yeah, kind of going on. I think what everybody else is saying. I would just kind of be repeating it, but the mistake everyone makes is that they think that this is actually a sport. And guys, it's this much of a sport. It's this much of a business. And if we're not entertaining, I don't care how many fights you win. If you don't entertain the people, then the people aren't going to watch you. And now, like you were making the point, I might kind of add on to your point. These guys that complain about, not being able to showcase and stuff like that, they have the same opportunity when they're in front of the mics and the same opportunity when they're in the ring to make some kind of splash. Personally, it's not my style. My style was like, everybody knows I'd fight anybody you put in front of me. It didn't matter. You know what I mean? Bring it. Shut up and bring it. I didn't really have to be the showboater because I'd be like, shut your mouth, climb in the ring. I ain't got no problem knocking you out. All right? And so that was my shtick, so to speak. You know what I mean? And that's what people knew me for. And so, everybody, there has to be a marketing angle on it, and it would be awesome if it was purely sport. Now, we were talking about, the retirement. Me and Ken were, about doing it, and I was like, as an athlete, I love competing. You know what I mean? Even with this broken up body of mine, a couple last year, year before, I went and won the World Jiu-Jitsu Championships because I enjoy the competing. You know what I mean? I just enjoy getting out there and doing it. So if it was a pure world where we just go out there and compete, I would, I'd be a 49-year-old guy going out there competing and doing it. But it's not. Because Guy Mezger would not fill the house up seeing me fight these days, all right? My skill set's a little bit diminished. And it is. Now I have my feelings hurt about that, and I can do all that other stuff like that, but that's just the reality. What McGregor has done is he has created a mystique about himself. He has, created a thing for him, and you have a short time in the sun, and you better get as tan as you can, because it's going to be after that. A lot of these guys, and the sad part is, a lot of these guys don't have much after that. This sport demands so much out of you, and you're there for a short amount of time. I had a very long career, but I really had two careers. I had a boxing and kickboxing career before there was MMA. MMA came along, and I was actually going to quit fighting because I wasn't making any money. I had a lot of accolades, a lot of titles and stuff like that, but not a lot of money. I was like, oh, hell with this, man. I'm going to, I got to actually become a big boy and get a job and do this. And then MMA came along. I said, I'm going to just fight in this once because I knew I could beat these guys. And then it started another career. But it was still a short amount of time. I fought professionally for 17 years. I'm going to live close to 100. That's 17% of my life. And we dedicate so much in that 17 years. Huh?
I don't want to be 100.
Yeah. Well, whatever, close to it, right? So, but the point being is you dedicate so much to it that you need to make as much out of it. Because a lot of these guys, and the sad part is like, when the UFC has the every summer they have the Legends thing, and all of us get around and tell lies about how good we were and all those. And the stories get better. Yeah, the stories get better and better every time. Dude, I'll be honest. I get a crack out of it.
10 times in one night.
Yeah, and they talk like, well, the kids today, and I'm thinking, oh my God, they're so much better than we were back then. And it is ridiculous. But
who would win then and now?
yeah, it's like it's not even comparable, right? It's a different activity. But the thing is that I don't knock these guys for doing it. They've got to go in and they got to make their money. If they're entertaining enough, that after their careers, that they'll have the opportunity to go into something else. You know what I mean? That they develop
I want to
from
wear
their
a
careers.
Batman uniform. Where's that guy at?
Batman.
He's Batman.
Yeah, I want to be a Batman. I want to be Batman.
He's already flown off.
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, but I just think that basically what we're all saying is that perfect world would be great if it was all sport, but it's not a perfect world, and you got a short amount of time in the sun, and you got to make the best of it, and that's just the way it is, whether you like it or not. Every one of us has children and stuff like this. Every one of us has a wife, some family, and so we need to. So you have to take care of them, and so if it's acting like Conor McGregor, then I don't knock it. He's doing an awesome job, actually. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and then it's obviously we all kind of seen it has really morphed and evolved into this huge business, and people even get it's kind of gotten a lot of heat and kind of morphing into too much WWE. But has the Reebok deal and this next evolution that is the buyout and all that stuff has that hindered the
Don't
ability?
mention that name.
Well, the R word. I'm sorry.
Reebok.
Has that
They
hindered
killed sponsors, man.
has that hindered the boys' ability and the girls to do business? And I mean, these guys get scraps of fight unless they're getting pay-per-view points, etc. Start with you, Guy.
I mean, I think I probably answer for everybody here. Absolutely, of course. I mean, the fact of the matter is like Michael Jordan made $20 million in a contract for playing for the Bulls, right? $20 million sounds like a lot of money. He made $90 million from Nike every year on his thing, and that wasn't even the height of his career on doing this. So, a lot of these guys, and the money's not made in the ring. The money's made into what they can promote and do outside of the ring. So for them not to be able to represent Nike or Adidas or all the other ones like that, it makes me want to freaking throw up.
You guys can also answer this with the whole thing. What's the psychology behind that? Why would they not allow them, knowing how dangerous it is, knowing how short that window is? Why would they not allow them to, sustain themselves
One word. Greed.
Yeah, agreed. They want all the money.
at the expense of their own fighters?
Absolutely.
Oh my God! You a promoter that was actually looking out for the fighters? Hey!
joke.
Somebody not told him that Santa Claus isn't real yet? I mean, someone's got to break some news to him here. The sad part is, guys, is that the UFC has a stranglehold on what goes on. All right, they're not affected by Muhammad Ali law. The Muhammad Ali law would not allow them to do what they do, but it specifically states boxing. So it can't encompass MMA or kickboxing and stuff like that, and it makes an inability for these guys to maximize their profits. If the Muhammad Ali Act was going on back in the day, because we were trying to get it pushed through when I was working for HCNet, because we had Vidor and we had Randy Couture, and Mark Cuban and Donald Trump were both looking to put together a big super fight for that. I was putting that deal together, and we were pushing like a son of a gun to get the Muhammad Ali Act in, and if that would have happened, that fight would have happened. You're telling me, okay, as big as the fights are, okay, we don't, the UFC is more concerned with its brand as the UFC than it is with anything else, all right? And the fact of the matter is that you guys know Frazier and Muhammad Ali won, right? I mean, two when he came back. Anybody remember what title they were fighting for? No, you don't, do you? Right? You don't remember what it was because it didn't matter, right? But you remember the fight, and you remember two guys into it. Why? Because those guys were bigger than the title that they were going for. The title was really irrelevant. It was the fact that the two of the most, gifted, toughest, considered the best fighters in the world were throwing down, right? So that's the problem. So it stunts some of the stuff that you got that happens in the big show for these guys the way that they have it now. So yeah, your answer is they don't give a shit. Absolutely don't give a shit. And the only reason they care if somebody dies is that they might get shut down. That's the only reason. If it proved ratings, they would hope somebody died.
You can monetize that.
What was the question?
Well, no, I think you kind of answered for both of them. I'm sure you guys kind of echo the same sentiment.
Yeah.
So, with kind of the climate of the UFC today, Connor's gone, Rousey, all their stars are kind of gone, and the money and the hijacking of the rankings and this push, some of these guys jumping to Bellator. Do you guys see Bellator in the coming future being in any way, shape, or form a threat on its own, or from the political stuff, UFC jumping over to Bellator? Start with you, Frank.
Oh yeah, I think Bellator is definitely going to consume market share. They're very committed. They've made a tremendous investment. They've made huge investments. And I think you're going to see their investment continue. I think they're going to take and steal as much of the talent and also take advantage of kind of the disgruntledness in the industry right now. So yeah, I think Bellator is a hot property for consuming market share right now, 100%.
Well, if you just look at the market right now, they're already taking market shares from the UFC. So they're already making a move towards that. I think that they're, especially with Scott Coker, great individual, good human being, makes good decisions, not a hothead, doesn't speak before he thinks, unlike with some people that we know in the world of management and business. But I think that they're definitely going to start taking more market shares. They're going to start making more moves, and as you see the moves they're making now, with the type of fighters that they're getting. And I think probably within 2 to 3 years, you're going to start seeing them look at pay-per-view. I know TV is their market right now, but if you see the model of the WWF or boxing, TV always sets up their pay-per-view. So right now, they're solidifying their position in the TV market. And then once they get control over that, which they are now, are starting to take control of that TV market, then you're going to start seeing them move towards pay-per-view, and they're going to market the pay-per-view through TV.
Yeah, I can't add much more to it. Other than I do know that, like, you know, Bellator is now making money, so which is a big factor. They were bleeding hand over fist for years and years. Scott Coker came in very short amount of time. It was a little bit and turned it into a profitable deal. So that in itself is going to be a big deal about them. You know, their ability to make money is is going to make them a constant player. And again, sooner or later, the Muhammad Ali Act will encompass MMA. When that happens, it becomes free market. So the fighters can start marketing themselves outside of what the difference will be is there'll be MMA athletes, not the UFC, right? That's the biggest thing. Most people, the sad part is that if you go, people ask me what I did. I used to fight professionally. What kind of fighting do you do? MMA. What's that? UFC. Oh, UFC. Okay, I get it. So that's starting to go away. If the Bellator comes up and gets this, especially if like I said, with the Muhammad Ali Act going away, then the sport of MMA gets promoted, and the UFC will become a sanctioning body. Bellator will be strictly a sanctioning body, and that'll make a huge difference for the athletes because they'll be able to generate, they'll be able to be part of the promotion financially, which will make a huge deal. Big deal.
And just to add something to that, to make a longer story longer, this is, I think, if it happens, I don't think we've seen the peak of MMA until we have competition. And I think if Bellator, when they make that move and they start competing with the UFC, I think that's when it's going to get fun, because anytime you have competition, the level rises and the fighters get to negotiate from a fair stance, because if this guy doesn't pay them, they're going to go over there, and they're able to be able to get paid the same amount of money wherever they go and negotiate from a fair stance.
And the Monday Night Wars, not to bring up professional wrestling, is a good example of that, because that was when everybody was kind of up in their dollars. So, as the Lions Den founders, guys, can we get a couple good Lions Den stories from back in the day? I know it's kind of all-encompassing, and that covers a lot of time. Something that comes to mind that you could share with us that's not too, or whatever. Make it whatever you want. We're all grown.
Statute of limitations up on most of the stories, so give us another year or two, and I'll get you a good one.
Ken, anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Oh, well, I'll tell you one of my favorite ones was, as everybody knows, Tank Abbott and his crew were always somewhat confrontational with us, but we always had, we always were under restraint. We sit there and listen to these jackass calls us things, and it's not like we couldn't beat the shit out of them, and we'd have to take it and have to take it and have to take it. And we were in Louisiana, I think. And they're all talking a bunch of smack. And they had this one guy. Remember the guy who used to walk out with Tank who wear the POW? He wore the POW shirt. You know what I mean? The bald guy. Anyways, he came out one time. We were all out getting out of a taxi. I think we were in either Puerto Rico or in Louisiana. I don't remember which one. Anyways, he's mouthing off at Frank, and he takes a hamburger. He takes his hamburger he's eating, he throws it, hits Frank, and all of a sudden we're like, oh God. And Frank walks over like this, and he hits this guy. Boom! He goes down. So it's on. We figure all Tank Abbott's guys, all they're talking their shit, they're gonna be like this. So we come flying out of there like this, and we're coming up on them, and all these tough guys talking shit, they crack me up. I never laughed so hard in my entire life. I said, oh, you guys, it was so funny. They just whine like a bunch of little girls. And I was like cracking up. Frank beats this guy down.
Over a hamburger.
And it was funny because the next day, or 2 days from then, me and Trey Teligman, you guys know Trey, we were at the airport, and we were going, and we see him. and he's got these lumps on his head. Or it's so funny, we call him Lumpy. And he literally went into the bathroom, wouldn't come out till our flight left. It was funny. I was cracking up. But that was the brave Tank Abbott crew.
I don't have anything funny.
That's not funny. This is good.
I can't remember.
Frank, what you got?
I think I remember it. I remember the night that he threw the hamburger at me. And I think it was because I was dressed really nice. And
Was it Puerto Rico or was it Louisiana?
we were in Mobile, Alabama.
Alabama. Of course, I'm not even close to it.
And we had arrived via taxis at the exact same time. And I
That was
remember
when
I
they
got
shut
out.
down, right? They shut
Yeah.
down the event. We all had to get on a plane and fly.
No,
Well,
that was
Dolphin.
Dauphin,
Yeah.
Alabama. That was like shortly
See, I told you I
thereafter.
can't remember.
Shortly thereafter. But this night we all roll up. We just happen to get out at the exact same time, and for whatever reason, he gets out. He looks at everybody in our crew. And he looks at me and he goes, "You!" And he throws a hamburger at me and tries to pick a fight with me. And
Smallest guy, but it was the wrong move.
right? And I'm like, no, I'm all nice. And I'm like, then he starts chasing me around this Porsche for no reason. And then he grabs my sweater because I was wearing like a nice sweater and it was very
I
fashionable.
think he wanted to take you home.
Back in the day, I was extremely fashionable. Yeah, he grabbed my sweater, and then I started backing. He grabbed my sweater, and I freaked out because he grabbed my front, and I gave him the hockey move, like they do in hockey, where you back out and you start hitting the guy. And I hit him like 5 times, and every time I hit him, he got shorter and shorter and shorter. And then when he got really low, my shirt came off, and all of a sudden I'm like Bruce Lee, and I'm standing there with my shirt off, and they're all like, "Whoa!" And he's like on the ground, and I have these nice like boots like Ken's. And
Was
I
that when he tried to
full
kiss
on-
you?
No. And I boot him in the face like 3 times, and then everything gets really quiet and weird, and then we all leave. And then so the next day he shows up and he's got like all these butterflies
dude.
holding his face
Yeah, these
together.
swells.
Remember?
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey guys, I'm really sorry about that." And the guy's like 6'5", right? So I'm like this. "Listen here, buddy." But yeah, that was a good night. That was a good night.
Hey, somebody's phone. Toughest opponent and sweetest location to fight in, and it's even better if you combine the two and they're both the same. But Frank, who was your toughest opponent, and/or where was your sweetest place to fight?
My toughest opponent was Tito Ortiz because he was just much bigger and I'd still kind of was figuring it out but my favorite place to fight is probably Japan. It's just such a good vibe and everybody's into it and you know you can really feel from the crowd what's going on and it's certainly like a special experience when you fight.
Is that weird? Because over there they're like so quiet, right? Until something happens, like over here, we're shouting every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
How was that? But in Japan, it was like on cue though. They'd be like hitting, the entire crowd would go ooh,
It's more
and then
real.
and then you like you get a stand up, and then everybody claps, and then
Well, it was an advantage. It was an advantage though when
Yeah.
you got somebody that came over to fight and didn't know what the crowd was like because then
Yeah.
they thought their fight was boring, so they tried harder. Usually got themselves in trouble and you could submit them.
I found it to be very real, and that being a value asset because I could tell if I were winning or losing, or if they thought I were winning or losing. Whereas here in America, like, kill that motherfucker, and they don't give a shit. Like they have no idea what's going on, but they're
Or they're booing your inactivity.
Right.
Yeah.
But everybody's in tune, so like you could feel like, oh my god, I'm getting fucked up right now. This is really bad, and it was real, and that was to me a huge value add. And
But also,
then it also made me perform better because I was like, well, I don't want to lose in front of these people, and it was real. So
they were better educated.
they
I mean,
they cared
the
more, I
audience
thought,
the audience
or felt
understood
more.
the game, you know, and you know, you like when we were in Oklahoma, the land of some of the greatest wrestling ever, and you'd hear these guys yelling, "Stand up and fight like a man." You mean while I'm breaking his ankles? Okay. You know, so they, you know, so yeah, I agree. I think Japan was probably the.
Ken, toughest opponent
Oh man, that's hard.
and favorite location?
Yeah, that's a tough one, like I said, because I think my first fight I was number 4 on the card, and then after that I was either semi-main event or main event, and so for me I think it wasn't actually the toughest opponent. I think it was just the training for the different types of opponents. You know, I could fight Hoyce, and you know it had to be a completely different game strategy as to fighting somebody like a Kimbo or a Kimo or somebody who had more power. So. It was definitely, they were all in their own right tough because I had to train for them different ways. So I think there was quite a bit of different types of training to get prepared for them, and every single one had earned their right to be there. Favorite place, I would have to say Las Vegas, and only because of the actual very first fight when I came back to the UFC and fought, and that was in Vegas. The electricity in the room was just unbelievable. So that was a great memory for me. Loud, very loud, for both me and Tito. It was just crazy. It was unbelievable. So for me, that was a memory that I won't forget.
Guy, you said favorite location was Japan. Toughest opponent?
Yeah, I had a lot of tough ones. I'll tell you, probably physically toughest guy was Chuck Liddell. I mean, you know, I heard him 2 or 3 times in that fight, put him down on the ground, and he got up, still knocked me out. And you know, I ain't used to that. I used to being knocked out, but definitely not used to people getting up when I'm hitting them. And,
Different view.
yeah, usually when I hit them, they go down. They usually stay down, but he got up, not once but twice. So I'd probably say that was probably the toughest fight. You know, he was tough, and I think, yeah, the best. I think the coolest venue we did was, for me, was the Tokyo Dome, and just because the crowd got into it, because you know, you got to understand they have these very elaborate walkouts, and so you got to understand Tokyo Dome holds like 65,000 live, and so we're in the back of the place, and they have us rise up on this riser, and then we walk down this all the way from the top of Tokyo Dome. It's quite a walk. You walk down this ramp all the way to the ring, and so when I got up there, as most of my friends know, I'm not really a big fan of heights, and there ain't much there, dude. And you're like, holy shit, you know, as long as you guys screw around. So Trey Telligman, being the smart ass that he is, he kind of pushed me, and so the crowd was like this because I was. So I actually, when I pushed, I went like this, and this half of the crowd went ah. They were I look over at Trey, and I go, ah, they go crazy. I went, oh, this is so cool. That was cool.
So it looks like there's a guy named Ron Imhoff who said he's responsible for training both Ken and Frank. Do you know him? And if so, how did he help? And if not, how many times do you hear that from people trying to take credit for your success?
I've never heard his name, but I've met quite a few very excited people who train with Frank Shamrock and tell me the stories of how they train with Frank Shamrock. And I never mention that I'm Frank Shamrock. I just say, that sounds amazing! And then I just go on to the next thing. Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
There's a chuckles. I don't know if I was saying an inside joke or something.
Yeah.
The guy, somebody came up, asked me about the guy, and like Frank said, we meet a lot of people, and to say that, and now, and I think I know the story. The guy says he trained me, like everything that I've learned, right? That he trained me, right?
That was the question.
Yeah, I think that's the same guy. So I said,
I believe yes.
yeah, right. I said, I don't. I
Don't
said,
hit me. I'm just messaging.
I said I don't remember anybody but maybe Funaki or Sakatsu Funaki or you know, a few other people that name does not ring a bell. So the guy pulls
So you're
up
saying
his,
it could be true?
you know. So the guy pulls up a phone and he goes, no, see? And he shows me a picture, and the guy's got his arm around me, and we're taking a picture. I looked at the guy, and I go, oh, then that must be true. You took a picture of me, you must have trained me. So there it is.
Another question. When Pat Miletich was last here, he mentioned a gentleman by the name, he was the toughest guy he said he fought. His name was Jason Nicholson. Do you guys know that individual, and what can you say about him?
Yeah, Punchy. Oh, Punchy, yeah. Punchy is this.
That was the guy I was trying to remember in the car ride.
This has
Punchy.
been bothering Chris for a minute.
No, Punchy,
Joe Dirt.
yeah. Punchy was, Punchy was he's an American Indian from Oklahoma, and he was just
Why are we talking about
journeyman boxer, had some wrestling background, and but could take a punch like nobody's business. And Miletich fought him and was like hitting him with like elbows in the head repeatedly, literally like he was scalping him or something, you know. And Punchy literally lost the fight. But Pat was so tired from that fight he couldn't continue, so Punchy went and got sewed up and went back in, took Pat's place in the thing and fought again. Yeah, he's a tough guy, real tough guy. not the best fighter, but
Any thoughts on Punchy, gentlemen? Ken, Frank?
No, he said it all, I think.
Punchy. His name is Punchy.
because he's punching.
Vitor has brought up the possibility of a Legends League or something to that effect. What are you guys' thoughts on the Legends League that Vitor talks about?
Ouch.
Yeah. Is that? I mean, not necessarily you guys would be interested, but would you be interested in seeing something like that? Not necessarily participating in, but checking it out.
I don't know. I'll be honest. I think there's a lot of. I mean, it's not that.
Is Vitor just fighting?
Like you said, you just
everybody?
competed in jiu-jitsu competition last year and won, so it's like.
Yeah, but jiu-jitsu's not fighting as much as might break somebody's heart here, guys. It's not fighting; it's wrestling, and and that's different. You know what I mean? And I mean, like I said, if guys want to compete, more power to them. If they can sell tickets and do it, more power to them. I mean, I just think there's so many really great talent and stuff, and there's got to be a certain point in your life when you got to say enough's enough. You know what I mean? And figure something else to do with your stuff. We've all gone on to do other things, and it still does. Ken just last year, had the bug and wanted to do it. It is hard to walk away from. I was talking to Sony over there about, he's like, when was it enough for you? And I think that some of these guys, it's not enough. But I think for most of these guys, just on like a health reason and stuff, there has to be there should be a real serious reason why you do it, not just I'm gonna collect a paycheck or something, and which would be a shame if that's what it came down to. And so, I mean, like I said, I don't hold it against them. I just don't know how interested I'd be in this, not with all the talent they got out there now.
Well, for the Legends, I think it's a great idea. I think if somebody wants to put in the training and they can pass a physical, a real physical, and get cleared, and they want to go in and compete with somebody that's within their division, I think it's cool. I wouldn't do it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool if Vitor fought everybody in the league and just one after another. Then it would be kind of cool. But I'm retired.
How old is he now?
I thought Victor was 20 or 19 when he started.
Yeah, man,
No, I
he's not
saw
even
his
old,
first fight
dude.
in Hawaii.
He's like, what, 38, 39?
Yeah, he's still
Wait
young,
till he's
man.
40
He's still
now.
young.
Yeah,
That's
he's
why
still
I'm saying
young.
he can fight
Yeah,
everybody.
what's he talking about?
Yeah,
He
he's
should
still
fight
young.
everybody from other sports and
He's
just
fighting
knock
in the
them
UFC at
out.
36.
That would be amazing.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, down to the couple final questions here. Gentlemen, if you guys could put your Dana White hat on, not that you would want to, but if you could, what would you do? What would you do to change the sport, implement anything different? Yes, no? Frank, we'll start with you.
If I were Dana White, I'd shoot myself.
What?
Moving on.
Ouch.
In the leg, guys. Sell it out. Non-lethal.
Take 'em out.
Something that would just cause me to limp and think twice about my actions. Moral turpitude and whatnot.
Less so much about Dana, but the sport.
Okay. Well, my answer to that would be simply like, he's got the power to do it. And, listen, the problem is that you're talking about perspective from guys from fighters. So we're going to have the fighters' perspectives, okay? All right? Now, Dana White has done a very good job of building a tremendous business, one that sold for billions of dollars. So nobody can really, sit there and go, oh, he don't know what the hell he's talking about. Yeah, he's got $1 billion in the bank, and I don't. So he knows a little bit of that. But, so the perspective is it's not really a clear one, you know what I mean? What should happen? What should happen is that these guys should have the ability to go get treatments at places like Cerebral Health Center and stuff like that with these guys when they're at the end of their careers, because the amount of damage is done to their brain. It just, as much as we go, in MMA we take less shots. Okay, it's not that you're not taking the freaking shots. Right. You're getting hit. There's still damage done. There should be treatment treatment plans for the athletes after that, like that, and there should be, and to be honest, there needs to be, and they are actually doing this, guys. I was part of a deal with the UFC where they asked me to come back and talk to them about doing other things with their lives afterwards, because I went back to school and became a doctor, and so. They're like, would you tell them a story? I'm like, it's not that exciting, you know what I mean? It's just, I had an opportunity when I was, Mark Cuban bought my consulting company. I was the president of his television company for a while, and then I went to school then, and that was it. I was fortunate. Not everybody was fortunate like that. And I would love to see that, the amount of money that they're making and stuff, I would love to see them invest in the athletes after their careers, because most of them aren't going to make enough money to retire on, and so they need to have they need to have other opportunities, and it would be nice to see that they did something like that. And I'd love to see something for the treatment, because brain damage is the byproduct of what we deal with in this, and there's treatments out there that would be great for them to see these guys have an opportunity to get the treatment, and I'd like to see that.
Well, I would probably say, first of all, that there would be a fair percentage split with the pay-per-view for anybody from the guy that opens up on the card to the main event, that their percentages are split with the pay-per-view buy rates and the marketing that goes into the actual fight itself. Main event obviously getting a bigger percentage, and then so on down, but it should be a significant partner split. And I think another thing that really I think bothers me is that there's no outreach program that will help fighters that are that become disabled through the works of fighting. They've had some bad luck come on them, some bad health issues, maybe even some family problems or something like that. There's nothing out there that is an outreach program that would help ex-MMA fighters or no-holds fighters to be able to rescue them from themselves or from a bad situation.
Frank, you still sticking with the shoot yourself?
I'm still with the shoot yourself.
In the leg, of course.
In the leg, something non-lethal.
Just permanent limp.
You just limp, when you're walking around, you're like, it's probably bad that I not just take from these people and hurt them and their families and create no future for them or support or otherwise.
What do you really feel?
But no, it goes back to being a sport. I don't watch sports. I don't watch football or baseball or anything else. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It's cool. They got great matching uniforms. But what I do know is in every real sport, there's a layer of care, and there's a layer of amateur development, and there's a layer of culture that you can't just come in and just do things that are not right. And unfortunately, we don't have that yet. And I long for the day, and I hope for the day when we become presented and respected, and we become a real sport, to where guys like this, who really have sacrificed their life and their soul and their body and everything else, will be honored and will be cared for, because that's what a real sport is. A real sport has a history and a culture and a community, and they care for those who gave the all. And someday we'll get there, and I pray for that day. I support the sport until that day. Until then, we're a brand, and we're pushing that brand forward through various
It's not even our
companies.
brand. That's from it's their brand.
They have a brand.
You're
We're
not allowed to
pushing
push
it
your
to various
brand.
levels, but at its core, I was with Warren Sapp 3 days ago. He's got an amazing jacket which says his Hall of Fame thing. He has a pension. He's cared for. He has a community. He has all these things that care for him. There's billions of dollars out there, and plenty to care for
4 billion,
these guys, for the community. There's plenty to care for everybody, but that it goes to a certain select group of people, and that is not shared within the community. When it does get shared with the community, we shall become a sport. Until then, shoot yourself in the leg, you cocksuckers.
That's very well said. I agree. So one last question before we turn it over to the audience. What advice would you give the up-and-coming fighter now? Like Ken said, man, they're coming out of the womb well-rounded. Like they're beasts now. So what are your advice to these fighters with, the short window, the marketability, all the stuff that goes into it now? What's your advice, to quote Arnold Schwarzenegger from Pumping Iron?
Don't quit college.
What was it? Pumping Iron. Yeah. He had some good quotes on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said, I think important that these guys get real good management. That's I think that's was a big difference. I had a guy named Michael Braverman on the second half of my career, and it made a significant difference in how much money I made, marketing opportunities, and other stuff like that. And I think the problem is that these guys will hook up with some guy who doesn't, really understand the game, and he thinks he does, and and they leave a lot of money on the table, a lot of opportunities on the table, just through their inexperience, and I think having obviously getting a good training camp, having good management, and have an exit plan. Have something to do, because again, we get the question all the time. How many times the question is like, what's your greatest accomplishment? I'm like, shit, dude, I'm only 49 years old. Ask me another 40 years, and I'll tell you what it is. Just, I'm Guy Mezger. I'm going to do some more great shit in my time. I don't know what it is. And you want to ask me what my best fights are? That's different. But ask me what my greatest accomplishment is. It's probably not done yet. And I think that's what the attitude these guys got to have. They got to have an exit plan that is a sound exit plan. They got to have obviously the good training, and they got to have good management that can maximize their the money opportunities and maximize the other opportunities outside of the ring.
What was your question again?
Any advice that you would give up-and-coming fighters?
Well, I think Guy said it with the exit plan. I think that really seriously, and I say it all the time with when I speak to the kids that are at risk. You got to have an education. You got to go to school. Even with these kids going up through the ranks, it can end in one match or one training session like that. So you have to have something that you can fall back on. And I think the thing that I think is wasted is our brains. And the kids need to understand that if they're going to get into a sport or an event, like the MMA, and say that their career ends with an injury, because it can happen in an instant, what are they going to do? Ask themselves that question, what would you do? And then when you answer that question, then follow up with it.
Yeah, they got to have an exit plan.
Frank, any advice?
That's deep shit, man.
Shoot yourself.
Damn! Shoot yourself in the foot. Go back to college, get a real education. This cage fighting shit will just mess you up. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, what are you thinking?
Well, let me shoot straight with you folks. No, I mean what I tell everybody is it starts like this. Your brain feels no pain. So when you get punched in the head, it doesn't really hurt you, but you are getting brain damage. Every time you receive damage to your body, you get damage to your body, which means that regardless of this career or otherwise, you will be damaged and fucked up. So if you are not compensated for that, if you haven't built a business or a brand around getting punched in the head, then you need to rethink what you're doing. Because this is a business about making money off of your body and your entertainment and your performance. So I tell everybody, get your shit together, get your brand together, get your business together, get your dreams together, get your exit plan together. This whole thing should be listen, this is my strategy to do X, and I'm doing Y because of it. If you don't have that mindset, you're going to get fucked up, you're going to get hurt, you're not going to have a good career, you're going to get beat up. This is we are beating each other up with our knuckles for money. And if you're not ready to take that position in life, you need to rethink what you're doing.
That sounds cheap.
It's well, you can do it with or without clothes. That's entirely optional. But if you think about it, we are the warriors of old. We are going out and killing each other, and you really have to protect that. And that has a value. And it may not hurt you now, but it will hurt you in the future. So get yourself together. Get a good manager. Get a good team. Get a good strategy. Get a good plan. Get a good brand. Stick with it. The one thing Conor McGregor does extremely well, he never breaks character. It's all an act. Keep your brand, keep your game, solidify it, maximize it, and you get the hell out. Because this should be a vehicle to something else. Because you cannot do this for very long. It just ends. And when it ends, it's usually not as glorious as you hope it to be.
Right.
Never is.
It always is. So
Never is.
Plan for it, prepare for it. It's a financial opportunity. It's an athletic endeavor, and get your shit together and get compensated. And then do the next thing. I'm just hanging out with Ken.
Well, that is all the questions I have. Thank you, gentlemen, for your insight. Before we flip it to the crowd, in the vein of kind of keeping it consistent with what we did the last panel, we had kind of a surprise guest come up and ask Pat, Boss, and Matt a question. Rory Markham came up and asked a question. But tonight, the gentleman in the building is Mr. International. Shoney Carter wants to come up and ask a question or two to our legends.
Talk about the brand.
Yes!
Shoney Carter, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. International.
Yes!
That's a brand right
That's
there.
a delicious hat, too, by the way.
You need the mic, Shoney?
I'm horrible at these.
He's hosting his own TV show.
Needs a wider angle on his.
I do. First of all, hello everybody.
Hello, sir.
This has been such an insightful, beautiful, educational moment for me because I've been doing this for quite a while, a lot more intensely than most, and it is my privilege, my pleasure, my honor. I've worked with these guys, a while. First question, like I previously asked you guys, and I asked Guy first. Over the years, I say, because as myself, I'll tell you, I'm scared. Because what is that can kill me is what keeps me alive. And I was listening to you earlier, and how you have a pet bear. And it was really cool because I remember 7 shots of Russian vodka while in St. Petersburg, Russia. The Russians dared me, and I wrestled a bear. And, well, don't do that because it's not safe.
Only 7 shots?
Only 7. Well, remember, I was a lightweight turned welterweight. But essentially, I want to ask you guys, not just to ask you what was it. I want to rephrase that question. What was the moment? First, it's a 2-part question. What was it that made you decide or allowed you to decide, I want to do this? The second part, what was the clear defining moment that you said, okay, I've done enough? We'll start with whomever likes to speak first.
I'll go ahead and start since these guys led off before. I grew up in juvenile hall, on the streets, fighting. Ended up in a group home. Frank was there with me. He has kind of a similar story. Fought for survival. The only place that I felt like I was somebody, like I became important, was in sports. I was able to vent my frustration, my anger, and people gave me preference treatment. They wanted to help me in school get good grades so I'd play sports. As I traveled up through the sports world, I ended up getting an opportunity to fight. For me, it was a no-brainer because that's what I'd done my whole life, but I was getting arrested for it. I was being put in juvenile hall or jail for fighting. And now I had an opportunity to actually go in a ring and actually fight somebody and get paid. So for me, it was like, yeah, okay, sounds good. You're going to pay me to fight. I've been doing it my whole life. Well, not quite the same thing when it came to the skill sets. As soon as I started understanding the skill sets, I fell more in love with it. I wanted to be better at it. I had my first fight. After my first fight, it's kind of like a pit bull when it gets the first taste of blood, right? You're not going to train it after that. It's continually going to keep chasing that. Well, it was the same thing for me being in the ring. When I got that taste, I felt this is what I want to do. This is who I am. And immediately in my mind, I said, I want to be the best. And I started down that road to be the best. Now, I think anybody that knows my career and would ask when is enough, for me, never. I don't understand that word. The way my life was and the way that I grew up and the way that I kept fighting to become something, I never said the word quit or give up or I'm done. So I don't know how to quit. I don't know how to say I'm done. I don't know how to speak those words. But I can get around that by just disappearing. Not having to stand up there and say I'm retired. Because to me, and I'm not saying this is everybody's thing, but for me it feels like I'm betraying who I am. As a person that stands up and said I've had enough. I won't do that. I'm not going to do that. But I will disappear. I know when time is up. I know when I can't go in there and compete and have fun anymore without it being dangerous. Hope I answered the question.
Excellent. Mr. Shamrock,
What was the question again? Sorry? Tell me
what
about-
was it that in your moment,
Yep.
that very moment, when you decided that you were going to do this?
Fighting or giving up fighting?
Fighting.
Fighting, okay.
The
Back
second part is when you realized, hey,
You done?
yes, correct.
Done? I really, I was in Folsom Prison in 1994, and Bob came and was like, "Listen, Frank, I got this idea for a career for you. You really fucked up your life." I was like, "Really?" Yeah, he's like, "Your brother's doing this wrestling thing. It's gonna be amazing." I was like, "Really? I don't know anything about sports." He's like, nah, it's a new thing. It's gonna be fucking amazing." He never cursed, but he's like, "It's gonna be amazing." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So the option B was, he's like, "Listen, you grew your hair out. You look amazing. You'd be a great stripper." It's like, there's two paths you can pick.
Stripper
You
or
could-
fider?
You can do the same path.
Sounds
The
good.
decisions
Same
we had
path,
to
but,
make.
It's like, you should really pick a path. And I was like, all right, it's about, dad cheat, mentor cheat. I was like, all right. So I said yes to I didn't even know what I was saying yes to. And then it wasn't until I started doing it that I just never been beat up before, or like I've never had anyone kick my ass or anything. Not for real, because I learned to survive and stuff. But to kind of experience that like as a somewhat grown man, and it just kind of woke me up. And then I realized like that there was something going on here, bigger than just me getting my ass kicked by this, lovely gentleman. And then this study started, and this life started, and this journey started, and this chi started, this whole sport started, and everything else. But it was really for me that moment of, I've had my ass kicked and stuff, but never like had my ass kicked. And it just kind of it woke me up. And then I remember the moment when I decided I was going to be the best, and that I was going to kick everybody's ass, and that nobody was ever going to stop me. And that was a very definitive moment in my career, and it was a very conscious moment. It was a very I'm going to pick up this sword, I'm going to swing it, I'm going to kill everyone in my path, and then these are the things I'm going to do for the next decade.
Got you to a sword?
Yeah, and then I'm going to
You
move
got
on.
a sword?
And I'm going to move on to the next thing. But yeah, I think everyone has that moment, where they pick up the sword, where they decide to go into battle, where they decide to be the best, or they decide to step away. And when it was time to step away, I knew it. I went to race my Ferrari with the other Ferraris, and I was moving at Volkswagen speed, and that was the end of it, because I never wanted to be that. I always wanted to be the best. So when the best was no longer there, then I took the next job, and I took the next role, because I just wanted to be the best.
Dr. Mezger.
Well, I think it's kind of weird. Believe it or not, I don't really like hurting people, and I make a much better doctor than I do a fighter. I have a skill set that is kind of unusual because I'm good at something I don't really like to do, but I grew up a lot like these guys. I wasn't in juvie or anything like that, but that was only because I had a sweet talking mom who could talk anybody out of anything, or I would have been, and I had a lot of self-esteem issues. A lot of kids do. You gotta understand something too. Frank's a little bit younger than us, but me and Ken, when your parents in the 70s divorced, you came from a broken home. It was the most retarded statement ever, but you were marked as a broken home. And some of you guys are my age. You guys probably understand that thing, And it was a marker that you had, And you could even hear the teachers talking about, that kid, well, he's from a broken home. I'm like, fuck. I have more love in my house than most people ever had, But, the thing is that, I had a lot of self-esteem issues, and my brothers, I'm not kidding you, every one of my brothers, they're all, I don't know if you guys know what Mensa is. Mensa is a society of people that have IQs over 140. So basically genius IQs. Every one of my brothers are a member of Mensa. I'm not. My mom would be like, this is John and Ken, they're my younger brothers. They're honor roll society, and this is Marshall, and he's an AP, which is advanced placement classes, and this is Guy, he's athletic. and so my identity was and my self-esteem was tied up in being an athlete, because I was good at it. But I was good at all sports, really. But you know, I was also a poor kid, so when it started coming down to making decisions on, you know, earning scholarships and stuff like that, I mean, I was all district linebacker, but I was 135 pounds. There's nobody that's going to recruit a 135-pound linebacker for college, you know what I mean? Baseball, I was a real good baseball player, but, you know, I injured my shoulder, and even though I could throw the heat pretty good, you know, after about 30 pitches, man, my arm was done. So I wasn't going to make it as a baseball player, just on track. I just couldn't stand the running anymore. I was pretty good at that. Swimming, I had bad ears. So what I was really good at was wrestling. I was a state champion wrestler, and that's what I love to do most anyways. So I, you know, chose wrestling. And then at 14, you know, I got involved in karate, and I was good at that. I was state national world karate champion as an amateur from age 14 to 20. And, you know, it was just something I gravitated to because my self-esteem was so caught up into being the champ that I hated having to rely on everybody else to win. You know, football, I mean, probably everybody here has played football a little bit, you know. But the most irritating thing is when you bust your ass and it's the one jackass who wouldn't train hard during practice, who missed his block or missed the tackle, and you lost the freaking game because of that guy. You know, that's the guy I used to beat the shit out of after practice. I was not well liked on my teams. And because I wanted to win so bad. So the you know, the first team, like when I started doing this, I put together my own team, my own fight team. I put the coaches together, I put my training partners together because I put them all together for what I was going to do. Ken was the first, when I went out to Lions Den, that was the first group outside of anybody I put together that had the same intensity that I did, that wanted to win, that you know, that we're going to let, you know, you let your arm get broken. You know what I mean? I mean, my arm, you can see it this. Frankie broke my arm because I wanted to get out of the arm lock. You know what I mean? Wasn't the smartest decision I ever did, I will admit it. But you know, our intensity that was
Wasn't my fault
to
either.
Yeah, it was all Ken's fault. I don't know why he told me to go to it. No,
I was there.
but it was the first group outside of the people that I put together that had the intensity that I wanted to win and doing stuff. And so, you know, becoming a fighter, I was a lot like these guys. I managed to get below not one full ride scholarship, but 2 full ride scholarships in college. And so I was out of what the hell was I going to do? I was in trouble. Literally, my life from 17 to 20 was like a bad Miami Miami Vice rerun. I mean, it was like amazing. I made it that far, and I changed at 20 when I decided I was going to become a professional fighter because I was good at it. I was world champion as an amateur, and I remember when I told my mom, you know, having my yearly come to Jesus thing with her, and I was like, Mom, I'm going to be a professional fighter. And my mom going, okay, baby, what are you really going to do? And but it was my decision to do that, and you know, and like I said, I was good at it, and I enjoyed it, and you know, and my career really, you know, my favorite part of my career was my time with these guys. I mean, it was by far to this day my closest friends are my training partners. You guys, there's Lions Den Dallas, which, you know, had like Trey and Alex and a couple of other guys there. You know, still to this day, my closest friends. And, you know, I just, you know, it was just something. I'm sorry? No, I said from Dallas. I was like, yeah. And so, because I don't see you all the time. I see those guys all the time. And the thing about it is that I just really enjoyed it, and it was a big deal for me. And it allowed me to conquer a lot of demons. You know what I mean? It really did. I'll tell you something, guys. Everybody talks like this. I don't know. I can't speak for everybody. But when I fought in the first UFC, you know, I even told Ken this, but I told this. Everyone was talking like such shit, you know, on the interviews. Oh, I can't wait to get in there to prove this, and I can't wait to do this, and I can't wait to do this. And I'm thinking, hell, man, I had 60 pro fights before I stepped in there, and I'm like, can't sleep at night because I agreed to do this. Well, these guys are out of their minds. And I remember telling them that. I go, man, I haven't slept good since I agreed to do this, man. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out for me. You know, and every fight that I stepped into the ring, man, every single fight, I'm walking up there, I'm thinking, man, I should have been an accountant. I mean, my mom was right. This is not me. And I mean, guys, I had a lot of fights. I had 145 pro fights. I had an entire career before MMA. I had 65 fights, or 60 fights before MMA, and then I had another 60 in MMA. And so, you know, so I had a lot of fights, right? And every single one of those fights, I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing here? You know, but it was that getting in there and conquering that and everything like that a lot, you know, really was what that's the only thing I really miss about the fight business Is that getting in there and stuff? Because, you know, you take challenges on in life, you know, and we all have things we're scared of in life, you know, not necessarily life and death things, but business things, stuff like that. You know, the beautiful thing about the fight business, it's very real and it's immediate. You will find out immediately if your defense is good or not good, because you're going to get punched in the face, and then you get to make your adjustments immediately. A lot of decisions in life take years for it to unfold before you find out, oh crap, that was a disaster. And so, you know, that's one of what appealed to me, was just the fact that it allowed me to develop a self-esteem, allowed me to develop confidence in myself, it allowed me to become good friends with two of the greatest guys I know, and
Better.
you know, and to be honest, my career ended not necessarily the way I wanted to. I was tired of fighting by the time I was done. I mean, you know, when you're a person who doesn't like to hurt people, you have to have the ability to compartmentalize things. And I was able to compartmentalize things pretty good. I never fought, there's only maybe one or two guys in my entire fight out of 145 fights that I really wanted to fucking beat their ass. You know what I mean? Most of it was just business, and I kind of liked it. And I even let guys off. I used to get criticized by guys like Bob Meyerowitz and stuff, because I'd let guys off, you know, because I didn't find it necessary to have to hurt them unnecessarily. And, you know, and so, you know, you make these decisions on what you know, where you're going to be and what you're going to do. And I just never wanted to look at myself and be ashamed of the man that was in the mirror. And, you know, and so I was done. I know I was done when I was fighting Nogueira, Little Nog. And you guys remember the rules in Japan were much more liberal than they were in the UFC. And I hit him and knocked him down, and he's grabbing hold of my leg. It's like trying to do a leg lock. And I have my own personal code on what I feel you should be able to do and not do. I'm a sportsman. And, you know, and I don't care what the rules are. I'm not going to break my own code. And one of them is that I'm not going to stomp somebody when they're down. And Nogueira's a tough guy. And I reached my foot up, and I was going to stomp him in the face. Yes. And I literally said, I had this epiphany right in the middle of the fight. I was like, it's like time slow down. I go, what the hell am I doing? You know, this ain't me. And I realized that I was having a problem compartmentalizing things, you know, and then I didn't really want to do it. And I knew, like, then I said, you know what, I'm done. This isn't what I want. This is not what I got into. You know, when I start blurring the lines about what my own code is, then I think it's time for me to go. Problem is that I didn't know what I was going to do after my career, so I had a few more fights afterwards. And then the deciding factor was I had a stroke. And, you know, I was taking a medicine that, again, you talk about your careers, we were talking about careers earlier, you know, this was on the end of my career, but any one of you guys taking the Vioxx could have had a stroke at any point. You know what I mean? That was, you know, something that was out of my hands, outside of obviously taking the medication. But it was out of my hands. It wasn't like something I did. You know, I just had the stroke, and it was, and I had to make a decision. They said that they believed after doing my blood work that, you know, if we wanted to go back to your fighting, you probably could. We wouldn't really recommend it, but we don't see a reason why you couldn't. And then, you know, I was talking to my wife about it, and we were having babies, and I just knew there was something better for me to do, something different for me to do. There's an old Hebrew saying that a man without change grows stale. And then for 17 years I fought professionally, and I was stale. It was time for me to go, and it was time for me to do something different. And to be honest, you know, like I said, I didn't even know what the hell I was going to do. I really didn't. That's why I try to stress to these guys, have an exit plan, because mine wasn't a great exit plan. And so, you know, so when the decision came, you know, it was like, you know what, I'm done. You know, I'd rather raise babies and find something new to do, and you know, and I did. You know, I mean, I was fortunate in the opportunities that I got, and it was the right decision, because I've never really had the desire to go back into the ring and do it again. I mean, every now and then, you know, it does pull. You watch the fights and you're like, I can beat that guy. You know, I wonder what it'd be like to get back in shape and do that. You know, there's that there, but the reality is that, you know, I was, you know, when I was done, I was done. It was time for me to do something else. So.
Well, all right. This is the important time now. We would like to have you all, we're going to open up the question to you, the audience. They have those questions that you have as the fight enthusiast, as the fan. So, have at them as you will.
Sure. I guess I'll start out with kind of a business question, not to get too technical.
Oh, what question?
A business question. I'll try to get it. Because, you know, with Sean being, you know, his passion is to interview fighters and really get you guys' story, you know, basically what the essence is of today. With me being kind of the business side, what we talk about in our meetings is the support system you guys spoke about today that's non-existent. And what we are really passionate about is trying to figure out a strategy to create and enhance that support system that you guys spoke about today. And I just want to ask you guys the question, a two-part question is, not to name UFC as a partner, but are there forces that exist that are fighting against building something like that is the first part question. And the second question is, what is in our way of getting to that level, of having resources for the fighters at every level that you speak of, especially with the medical treatment and so on and so forth?
Well, okay, so, all right, here's the double-edged sword about the Muhammad Ali Act, all right? See, right now, UFC is a corporation. When people talk about being the world champion, they're not really the world champion, not really. They're the UFC champion. Now, are they recognized as the world champion? Yes, because the UFC is the largest organization out there. But the reality is, you know, so if you're going to work for a company, and that's what you do with the UFC, you know, they are the sanctioning body, they're the promotion, they control all the athletes, they control the sponsorship. So you're working for that company. So if it stays in that model, which would be where the laws currently allow them to do it, then there's an opportunity to do it. But it would have to come from their end of it, right? It would have to come from Bellator's end of saying, hey, we're gonna match, you know, 20% of your purse to go into a retirement fund for you on this, or a medical relief fund for you, you know, or the UFC to do that. Now, if the Muhammad Ali Act comes out, then that makes basically everybody an independent contractor. And then that would be up to them to do. So there's kind of a, you know, there's kind of like a double-edged sword there. You know, personally, I think you should have your freedoms in order to maximize the amount of money you can make. But there is a degree of safety if you had a conscientious corporation that was backing you up and allowed you to do that. So it's, you know, it's one of those things. Is that going to happen? Yeah, probably not. You know, I mean, you know, probably not. And the UFC does some of the stuff. Like I said, they did a whole summit on retirement, what to do after retirement and stuff like that. And they had, you know, they brought in motivational speakers, and they brought in people that are retirement specialists, you know, on what to do, career changing specialists, stuff like that. They had people like me talk there. And I really had no value for them because I don't know, you know, because I was fortunate. I was lucky. I sound lucky, but lucky is always such a crazy thing to do because maybe it's not so lucky. But I was fortunate to have certain opportunities that I know other guys aren't going to have. So it's like, you can't really do what I did, you know what I mean? You know, it's like, you know, so that's kind of the answer. I mean, yeah, if you had a conscientious company that controls everything like the UFC and Bellator is capable of doing, yeah, that would be great. That's how you got to approach them. You got to try to pull at some heartstrings there. If they become, the Muhammad Ali Act gets covered, then everybody's an independent contractor, and it's up to them.
So you would suggest moving towards pushing the Muhammad Ali Act?
I would, just because, you know, yeah. I mean, your agent, the nice part about the agents and stuff like this at the NFL, I work with a lot of NFL players. The agents themselves, not only does the NFL set up stuff, but a lot of these agents set up their own financial funds for these guys. It's part of their deal. Doesn't allow them to touch the money and stuff like that. And so if you have a management company that can sit there and do that, can take this money and put it aside for you and everything. Because, you know, what you'll find is like, you know, when I was in college, I lived on $800 a month. You know what I mean? And I made it. I wasn't missing anything in life, right? You know, now I make a considerable amount of money, and I still live basically the kind of same thing. You know what I mean? You grow to where you're at. So, you know, a lot of people just don't plan for that future.
Thank you.
Yeah, ditto.
Ditto. And I think the Muhammad Ali Act bears further explanation because it really is, besides an independent contractor, you know, status, it exposes and forces the promoter to expose what the pay-per-view revenues are and what the distribution revenues are. And what it enables an athlete to do is make a fair negotiation according to the market. We don't know what the market is because it's all hidden, it's all secret. They could be doing $100 billion on pay-per-view, and we're not participant, you know, of that. Nor can we bargain fairly without knowing the knowledge of the industry. So the Muhammad Ali Act was brought, you know, around that time to open up boxing because the same thing was happening. So what it would do for our sport is enable people to put themselves in a fair leveraging position. You know, now it's if you become a star, you have the ultimate leverage because there's no stars and the whole thing's broken. But the way it should be is you should be able to negotiate fairly on your value according to the market, and then make a fair decision. Do I fight? Do I not fight? Right now, all the value and all the power is in their pocket because there's no regulation or anything that requires them to expose what it is, what the revenues are, what your value is, or what they perceive it to be. So the Muhammad Ali Act kind of, resets that button and lets us negotiate fairly.
Yeah, I think transparency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it opens up the box.
Time and transparency.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to ask, but I don't mean to take out the question, but this, I have to ask you this, because I may not catch you guys this time. A lot of our strategy we talk about is the amateur ranks and how much that is 90+% of the market. You know, you have UFC, you have the pros, but there's so many other amateur fighters trying to get to where you guys are. And we just don't see anyone taking advantage of that. I mean, what do you guys think about that? Like uniting the amateurs and the numbers and the rest of the market share that is there, working with fellows like you who have the power, who have the marketability, who have the respect, trying to just, I don't know, create something that can make an impact in the topic that we speak of. I mean, do you guys think that's possible?
You need unified rules.
In terms of supporting the amateurs and the people that are not in UFC?
Yeah, but what you need to have is, you have to have USA Boxing controls all amateur boxing in the United States.
Right.
So when they change rules, it doesn't matter if you're in Texas or New York, the rules are gonna be the same. You know what I mean? Every state has their own MMA amateur rules. You go to Mississippi, they have no freaking rules basically for the amateurs. It's just like the pros, you know? You can change around however you want to. They can do 3 minutes or 5 minutes. And, so you need to put standardized rules. There needs to be a, just like there's USA Boxing, there needs to be USA MMA. And there needs to be, it needs to have every state on board with it. And then you have to put together programs like the Golden Gloves. People don't understand the Golden Gloves started off as a Chicago newspaper that put together an amateur tournament. They basically was saying, who's the best amateur boxer in Chicago? That's where the Golden Gloves started. You know what I mean? And then it became a tournament, and then they took it to New York, and they took it to other places. And things like that are going to be able to do it. But again, it's all still governed by the USA Boxing. And that's what needs to happen, is that they need to have a unified thing that's recognized by every state that allows these guys, the safety and the ability to grow up and the deal. And right now they don't. And so what happens is that you get guys, it goes from, not very good, like in boxing, you can slowly just get yourself all the way up to that world-class level. MMA goes like this, and then you either, you're thrown to the sharks pretty damn quick, and you got to be able to, make it. And it shattered a lot of guys' dreams. There's a gym in Texas called Octagon, and they're the king of the mid-rounders, man. I tell them all the time. What they do is they fight on these local shows and they're pro shows, but the promoters promote, get the guys wins because they fill the butts, seats with butts, and so these guys have 10-0 records. But my mom can pretty much beat them. She's 77 years old. She's tough for 77, but she is 77. Her win's not as good, but she still can beat them, right? And so these guys get a shot at the UFC, and they're one and done in the UFC, right? There's not, so and they really had no amateur career. Amateur boxers, they'll have 100 fights before they turn pro.
Right.
I mean, I didn't have an extensive amateur career. I had 48 fights as an amateur boxer. You know what I mean? And that's nothing for an amateur boxer in the 80s.
Right. Absolutely.
I got a question.
One last question, then we're actually gonna let these gentlemen get back to the party, but we're gonna have a magic act come up here as soon as these guys are done.
And if you guys have any more questions for these guys, feel free to approach them. That's why they're here.
Absolutely, please.
So go for it, brother. Knock it out.
This question's for Frank and
One more
Ken.
question.
Sure.
Frank, I saw your documentary. You were in Folsom. I'm glad you brought it up so I could bring it up.
Amazing documentary.
Yeah, absolutely.
little
And
time.
you said you and Juvie. Is it fair to say that Bob was like a custom model where he molded Mike Tyson? I would say he's the background for your training and being who you guys are today. Is that correct? Bob, comparing Bob to custom model
Yeah.
for you guys?
I think 100%, not in the training aspect, in that I think Customado was more of a, motivational trainer. He didn't really motivate as much as, spiritually guided, life guided, mentor kind of was there. But yeah, he was the same
He gave
character.
some good advice to
isn't it?
employees.
Yeah.
Are you gonna sit down and you're gonna kiss him or what? I looked at Bob. Bob, is that necessary?
Boy says, please don't.
Please
But
don't.
he had the same.
Big impact.
He had a huge, yeah, he had the same thing. You know, he had a vision for you know, for boys. So, yeah.
Okay, nice.
I just want to say a compliment, and after you were asking about the regulations and knowing everything, would you see all three guys making your own brand of a different way to treat the fighters who are becoming amateur or pros? And Ken, I can see yourself being like a manager, because I can see you with all the suit, the jewelry, and everything, making contracts.
Yeah.
The Godfather.
Yeah.
The Godfather, yeah.
Good.
Listen here. Like,
He walks around with a megaphone.
Come on,
Walk around with a megaphone.
Just like this. No.
like Bill
Yeah,
Murray
yeah.
did. And Frank, you know all the regulations, how to treat the fighters well, and knowing that, you know what, they need to be treated better. And I know Ken will say, ban Reebok in our company, we don't want them anymore. I bet they come with a shotgun saying that, like, saying,
There's nothing wrong with Reebok, but I think the way they went about it was wrong, because anytime you get a company like that has that much money and they're taking money out of the fighter's pocket, that's unfair.
yeah, and that's what you learn.
Well, see, the other aspect though that you got here, guys, is that, see, there's a lot of talk about putting a fighters union together and everything like that. And that would be great if you got everybody on board. But the problem is with fighters is, like I said, Frank wanted to be the best. Remember the whole thing, he was talking about the whole thing. He was going to be the best, he was going to be the champion. Now, regardless of the fact if he became the best or not, right? In his mind, that's where he wanted to be. Every fighter who is worth their salt has the same attitude. Whether they're can be capable of as good as great as Frank Shamrock was or not is really irrelevant, because in their mind they do. Every single one of us goes in there being, we're the next Muhammad Ali of MMA. All right, there's not a single one of us go, you know what, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get my ass kicked out 4 or 5 times.
I'm gonna get a strong third.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll be known, I'd really be great to be known as the 3rd best fighter in MMA. You know, nobody does that. So the problem with it is that these guys don't come together on the thing, because everyone thinks that they're gonna be that one exception that's gonna be the difference. They're gonna be the McGregors and all that other stuff. So there's not a unity in it, and it won't work. Because these guys are unwilling to step back and go, you know, am I willing to step back for the greater good of everybody? And most of us aren't.
But were you willing to do it if you had the chance?
Jesus Christ would do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for these warriors, these legends of the sport. Frank Shamrock, Ken Shamrock, Guy Mezger.